Whistle up your down and call up your dog. Whistle up your down, call up your dog. Went to the woods to get the groundhog. Oh, groundhog. Hey everybody, welcome to MandoLessons Live. Looks like people are coming in from all over. Glad to see you here. Got people from Spain, Austin, Cheshire, UK. Great to have you all here. That was a tune. Happy Easter weekend to everybody. That was a tune. Also a song called Groundhog. It's really just like an 8-part tune. It's a really simple melody, but it's nice. You can really turn it into a lot of stuff, from really simple. Sort of the basic melody of it, but you can really turn it into, you can do it in 2 octaves in D, which is nice. Add some chords. A little bit of variation here and there. It's a fun thing to mess around with. All right. Denise is here from Michigan. Thanks for joining us. Justin's in from North Carolina. Christopher asks, do I know Buffalo Gals or Old Joe Clark? Both are great tunes. I'll pick one of those. All right. Ben is here from Skye. Skye. Great to have you, as always. Glad to see familiar faces. I was out of town last weekend, I was playing, there's a nice festival here in Maine. The Down East Friends of Folk Arts put on a festival in Maine. It's the DEFA Festival. If you're ever in Maine, or if you live in Maine now, highly recommend it. It's a super fun time. Lots of contra dancing, lots of tunes, lots of jamming if you're into that. Some workshops, all kinds of good stuff. Yeah, Doc Watson did do Groundhog. A bunch of people have done it. Doc Watson did it. I've heard a version John Hartford did of it. Homer and Jethro did a version. They got all kinds of nice lyrics for that one. All right. Andrew, thank you very much for the super chat. Appreciate the donation. Good to have you, and sorry you can't be here, but you'll catch up later. Yeah, so if anyone can't make the whole thing, or you need to leave at some point, this will always be archived, so you can come back and watch the whole thing later on. All right, Texas, great. Michigan, North Carolina. All right, so I'll go through a couple. I got a request for Old Joe Clark. I'll do that. Christopher also asks, or Christoph, apologies. I'm adding an ER to your name. What make is your mandolin? This is a Gibson. It's an old Gibson from the 20s, A style. Kind of one. It's not A junior is the sort of lowest rank, but this is just the A. No, they kind of go A junior, then just regular A, then A1, A2, A3, A4, getting fancier and fancier as they go, and then A5 is with F holes. But this is sort of what would have been Gibson's lower tier, not the lowest, back in the 20s. And I'm really enjoying playing it. All right, a little bit of Old Joe Clark. All right, we got all kinds of people. This is great. Alabama, Florida, Oregon. I saw Jesse up there somewhere. Thanks for joining us, Jesse, here just down the road from me in Maine. Cool. Diane's here. Glad you've been enjoying my website. Recovering bassist. Thanks for joining us. Now, another great tune. Nail that catfish to a tree from Chip. All right, I gotta get through some of these requests here. Old Joe Clark, great tune. bound to go away. Old Joe Clark, classic tune. It's on my website if you want to learn it. Somewhat simplified version, but it's still totally the tune. And then there's lessons if you want to learn how to add in double stops like that. There's a double stop series in the technique and fundamentals section that'll teach you how to do that to any tune, really. But great tune that a lot of people will know. So if you want to learn tunes that you can play with other people that you might not have ever met, that's a great one. Great one to know. All right, I'm going to just catch up with the chat here a little bit. What did I miss? Dreamweaver says, do you know Kiss Me Waltz? I do not know that tune, but I bet it's lovely, and I'll try to keep that in mind and look it up at some point. Cool. Christoph says he's been playing since October. Excuse me. Great. You got a bunch of months under your belt, and it only gets more fun as you go, so keep up the good work. Cool. Recovering bassist is practicing chop chords to it. Yeah, by all means, play along with me if you know it. Ook Pick from Chip, another great tune. I'm already forgetting. Oh yeah, somebody, maybe it was also Chip, said, nail that catfish. Ook Pick. See if I can get all these under my fingers. Thank you. Diane says, nice coffee mug. Yeah, it's my favorite mug. I kind of only drink out of this one just because it's my favorite one to drink out of. Fits my hand well. Made by a neighbor. John asked, do you play the bouzouki? And if so, how does it compare with the Mando playing-wise? Great question. I do play bouzouki. I don't know if I really... I maybe can pull out a bouzouki at some point here. Yeah, so I play in a different tuning on bouzouki. I play GDA, which is the same as mandolin, just down an octave. And then instead of an E on top, I have a D. So I can get kind of nice drone chords. And I play it fairly differently than mandolin. Actually, if you're interested in it, in bouzouki, and in that tuning, GDA-D, the main instrument that I play is tenor guitar, which is a 4-string guitar that I tune GDA-D, like a lot of bouzouki players tune. And if you want to learn sort of the basic fundamentals of that style, you can look. I have a website, tenorguitarlessons.com. It's just all one word. And I don't have a whole lot up there, but I've got a little beginner series. I kind of ran out of time to make new lessons for that website because MandoLessons takes up so much of my time. But there's a basic series up there anyway. Maybe I'll pull it out at some point. Joseph asked if there's a trombone back there. There is a trombone. Good eye. I don't play it. That's my partner's trombone. How about the tune Roscoe? Oh, I haven't thought about that tune in a long time. And it's been such a long time that I can't remember how it goes. Ritzenhoff says, I grew a beard, but don't play much better. Well, it takes a little while. It's a combination of a beard and some practice will really get you where you want to be. Chips. Oh, I'm all right. I gotta get through that. This is great. So many good requests and questions. I hope I'm getting to everything. Okay, so I'll back up a little bit. Recovering Bassist says, how do you change from your A to E chord? So what I do for an E chord, my A chord a lot of the time is just 2-2 open open. All A's and E's right through the whole thing. And then my E chord I play a lot of the time when I want to do that nice quick change. Well, there's a couple actually you can do. One is to go to first fret on the G, the G sharp, and then an E on the D string, and then a B on the A string. So it's 1, 2, 2. A nice ringy E chord, and then back to A. So that sounds a little bit like this. Both of them are just, I kind of hit both the, it's kind of like your E minor chord. You might know your E minor is open, 2-2 open, but you're just taking that first fret on the G string up to the, you're fretting the first fret on the G string. Makes it a major chord. Another one you can do is just more of a double stop. You've got 2-2 open open again is your A chord, and then sometimes I'll just play the 2 and 2, kind of a more condensed chord. And then my E chord can also be 4 on the G string, which is a B, and 2 on the on the D string is an E. So you have B and E. I'm really into like 2-finger chords. I don't tend to play a whole lot of big, like, you know, wherever you're, you know, that sort of thing, or that sort of thing. I really try to keep things condensed and use some drones in there as well. Great question, though. Chip says, your downstroke lesson was great. Thank you very much. Can you give more exercise lessons? Yeah, definitely. I've got some more in mind. They're on the horizon. I tend to do every other one week I'll do a tune, and then the next week I'll do either techniques or exercises. But I do have some things to do with exercises. I've got some ideas stewing. All right, Cry Cry Darlin', great tune. I can't really pull it off just on my own. What I will recommend, there's a great version of this song. What is it? The album is called Farewell Alligator Man, and it's what it is it's two of the folks from the Foghorn String Band, Caleb Clotter and Reeb Wilms, and then who are the other folks? Kelly Jones and Joel Savoy. It's them and then some other guest musicians. It's a lot of tunes or songs from this guy, Jimmy C. Newman, but the album's called Farewell Alligator Man. The cut of Cry Cry Darlin' is incredible. An awesome harmony. Really highly recommended album. Go check that one out. But great song. Cool. Fiddlehead has a nice lesson on chords for the fiddle. Also useful for the mandolin. Yeah, anytime you see, if you're a fiddle player maybe and you have, some double stops chords on the fiddle that you're familiar with, all that stuff's going to work on mandolin. And you can check out that lesson that James mentioned. I'm not familiar with it, but I'm sure it's good. So yeah, Christoph, this is I still have my other mandolin. It's just around the corner here. But this is an old Gibson from the 20s. A Gibson A with just a little different sound. A little more kind of tubby and ringy. Not quite as good at chop chords. It's not quite as focused as the LS, but I like it. It's a fun change of pace. Cool. Awesome. Recovering Bassist is a big Jimmy C fan. Yeah. Like one of my favorite albums. It's really great. It got so much good music. Great steel playing if you're a pedal steel enthusiast, which I am. What's that guy's name? I'm blanking on the pedal steel player's name. He plays with Caleb and Reeb in some other projects. Rusty Blake. Russ Blake plays pedal steel. Cool. Let's see if I can remember all of these things that were asked of me. I'll do another one of those tunes. Nail That Catfish to a Tree is a tune. It's not traditional. I forget who it's by. It's by Steve something. I should know this, but can't get it off the top of my head. But if I can remember how this tune goes, I'll play it. Never-ending endings. So that's a great tune called Nail That Catfish to a Tree. Still can't remember the name of the guy that wrote it, but maybe somebody here knows off the top of their heads. Let's see what else I can find here. All right. Key of E38, thank you very much for the donation in the super chat. Always appreciated. Let me know if you got any questions. Happy to answer them. Richard's working on Hector the Hero. Great song. That's one I gotta work on a little bit myself. I don't know that one off the top of my head, but it comes up upon occasion, and it's one I should know better. Joseph's working on Carolyn's Concerto. That's a tune right there. That thing's got lots of notes and lots of parts. It's a good one though. A lot of that Carolyn stuff is great. Covering Bases says, I notice you don't look at the neck a lot. Yeah, I don't really. I've got a lesson on looking. If you feel like you're really kind of attached to the neck of the instrument and like visually, I put out a lesson on just like doing some exercises of, just taking a tune really well. Somebody asked Golden Slippers. I'll play a little Golden Slippers. And if you find yourself... That's not Golden Slippers. Yeah, it is. Just try looking at the ceiling. Golden Slippers. That's a recent lesson that I put out. Great tune. One you might hear a lot. Cool. So Christoph says, how can I get a old Gibson mandolin like that? And Denise said, Elderly Instruments, which is a great website and a great store, brick and mortar out in Michigan, has 2 apparently for sale right now. Yeah, there. And you can also check out the Mandolin Cafe Classifieds. There's usually a lot of good stuff. That's where I got this one on Craigslist, but there a lot of good stuff on Mandolin Cafe as well. All right, it seems like I'm dropping some frames here. So if I get too choppy for you, let me know and I'll reboot things and it'll help. But hopefully it'll just clear itself up. Steve Rosen, thank you, Chip. That's who wrote Nail That Catfish to a Tree. Sean says, I'm experimenting with ADAE on my octave mandolin, ADA and capo for rhythm, like a 3-course bouzouki, and DAE for the tunes I usually play on standard mandolin. Cool, yeah, that's a great tuning. People will also play in ADAD. But yeah, ADAE is great tuning. It's also a tuning that fiddle players will tune to. It's called high bass, and fiddle players will play in that tuning a lot. Old-time fiddle players will play in that tuning for the key of D. Sometimes it's called like old-time D tuning. More quests here. Lark in the Morning. That's one of the tunes that gets played at the session, and I know it when somebody else plays it, but I can never start it. But that'd be a good one to put. Let me just write myself a little note here of lessons to make. That'd be a good one for the website because it's a common tune that gets played a lot in Irish sessions. One moment while I stare at my smartphone. Lark in the Morning. Great. Gregory asks, can you do an advanced version of Big Sciota? Everybody says it a little different. Somebody mentioned how it's actually pronounced because it's a river somewhere. I hear Sciota a lot, but I can't remember if that's how it's pronounced. Yeah, I'll play a little bit of that. I do have some plans to do some more kind of advanced lessons on. That could be a good one maybe to do like a lesson on, but I'll play a little bit of that one. It's a great tune. I'm just going to catch up with the chat, see if I can answer 2 questions at once. So Jennifer asks, love your videos, but I was wondering if at the end of the video you could show us how to do the ornaments you do like I do at the end. Yeah, so like I was just saying, I want to do some videos that are like that. The problem is the videos are already like 10 to 15 minutes long by the time I do one, and I don't have time to do advanced sort of versions of every tune, but I do have some plans to take a couple tunes and show you how I build them out and actually give you the tabs for them if that's helpful. Again, I can't do it for every tune. I do have some lessons in the technique and fundamental section, especially the double stop series, where I talk about how to add it to any tune. And then you'll sort of, after watching those videos and some others in the technique and fundamentals section of my site, MandoLessons.com, if anyone here has not been there, but I'm assuming maybe you all have. After watching those, you can really start to sort of develop what works for you in terms of adding ornaments and things like that, because it's kind of a personal choice, and whatever you want to do is great. So just experiment with it and see what you come up with. But I do have some plans to do some more advanced lessons like that. Thank you for the request. Yeah, Robert says Elderly is good people who do great setups on their stock. Yeah, great website. I've gotten things from them in the past. They're awesome. Kenway asks, any tips for volume? Where did it go there? It jumped on me. Any tips for volume, especially in an Irish session with fiddles and banjos? My tongue-in-cheek answer is get a tenor banjo. That's ultimately what I ended up doing. Yeah, it's a hard thing to be a mandolin player in a session because mandolins are not particularly loud compared to a lot of the other instruments, and they get lost in the sauce a little bit. You got fiddles, which have all the sustain they could want. You got banjos, which are super loud. You got guitars playing chords. You got whistles doing the high end. You got concertinas, really punchy. Accordions filling out. There's lots of sounds going on, and mandolin isn't quite distinct enough and loud enough of a sound to really cut through. I mean, one thing that I find myself doing in really loud sessions is just tipping my head towards the instrument, which isn't great technique, but at least it makes it so you can hear yourself if you're really in a rut. In terms of actually getting more volume out of the instrument, one thing to play around with is just moving your pick maybe a little bit closer to the bridge sometimes. It adds a little bit of volume. You can play it a little harder without the instrument kind of collapsing sonically on you. But, it doesn't kind of you don't overplay the instrument when you're playing closer to the bridge because there's more kind of tension in the strings right there. The pairs are less likely to whack into each other. And also just a little sharper sound. If you go really close, it gets bad sounding. And it does affect the tone a little bit. But it's a little brighter sound that can cut through a little bit more, something I do. Oh, what was that request? Big Sciota. Play a little bit of that. Big Sciota, that tune. Great one. If you want to learn, a lot of my inspiration from that tune comes from the album Skip, Hop, and Wobble, which is Sam Bush, is it Bela? And Bela Fleck, Jerry Douglas, and Russ Barenberg, I believe, is the lineup. It's been a while since I've listened to it, but I think Bela's in there. I know the other guys are. Great album. Sam Bush takes a ripping solo on Big Sciota. Check that one out. Slow it down. See if you can pick up a little bit of what he does. Robert says picks can help with dynamics and volume as well. That's totally true. Yep. So, play around, try some thin picks, some thick picks, some pointy picks, some round picks. See what works for you on that end. Linda asked, I've been picking one string at a time. How many strings can I pick? Experiment. I'd recommend watching that series on double stops in the technique and fundamentals section of my website, MandoLessons.com. And I go over a lot of that stuff. It's a 4-part series, so it's kind of more than I can go over right now. But, I mean, sometimes, in that tune in particular, what was I doing? I kind of had 2 strings going. and I kind of kept that open G string ringing. There's some double stops. And then when I go to that C chord, I usually just go through all of them. Pick your C chord and run with it and just play through the whole thing. And then when I get to faster passages like that, there's less that I add with double stops because the melody's moving so fast. Maybe I'll add in a little bit of low G drone. And just let it ring out. This is just straight double stops. Another double stop. That's all single melody. You can add a little big C chord in there. A little big C chord. More melody. So mix it up a little bit, you know. Try to make as big of a sound as you can and see what notes sound good and just take out the ones that don't. A lot of time an adjacent open string is going to be a nice drone chord. Or a drone double stop to add. But play around with it and see what works. Trial and error is a great tool. That's kind of my main tool that I use when it comes to music. All right, I'm falling behind on the chat. Catch up for a second here. Calgara asked if I've started to learn any Italian mandolin songs. I have not. No. I would like to, but time is short. Not enough hour. I wish I had more hours in the day. That would be on the list. But no, I still don't know any. Maybe someday. Request for Whiskey Before Breakfast. I can probably play a little bit of that. There's a luthier named Paul Hathaway who makes mandolin family instruments in the UK. That name sounds familiar. I don't think I've ever played one of his instruments, but it's great to know about. Cool. Richard's been restoring a bowlback mandriola. Is that like a mandola? I don't know what that instrument is. Oh yeah, ukpik. Play a little bit of ukpik. Whiskey Before Breakfast. See if I can keep all these in my head. Lessons on old hymns. Not off the top of my head. I never know quite what's gonna come up. I'd have to take a look at my list, but I probably have something. That's a good question. There was one that was running around in my head recently, but I can't remember. But a river in Ohio. Thank you, Chip, for Big Sciota. Oh, Come Thy Fount is great, or font, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Lessons on YouTube for hymns, I'm assuming. It's also a great song. So yeah, check out, see if you can find that, Brenda. Yeah, there might just be somebody out there that focuses more on hymns. That'd be great. Oh, okay. So Kenway says he's been using a Golden Gate pick. Yeah, those are super round. They have a great sound, but they are super rounded, and I find harder to get volume out of those picks personally. In terms of volume of types of instrument, I think it really depends. Like, I would say, you know, this and my F-hole A style, I don't think there's not much difference between F styles and A styles, in my opinion. Other people will disagree with me, but that's where I stand on it. You can discuss it on Mandolin Cafe if you think otherwise. It's been done before. But in terms of oval hole versus F hole, I think the volume, at least to me, is about the same on the two instruments that I own. They're just slightly different. I think of like an oval hole having a more open sound and an F hole mandolin having more kind of focused sound. Again, it depends mandolin to mandolin. But I don't think the instrument necessarily is going to be the biggest factor. I mean, there's definitely, I find there are mandolins that I think are quieter and louder. But, you know, I think as long as you have a decent quality mandolin, that's not necessarily gonna going to be a big volume difference between mandolins. But picks, also like keeping the instrument away from your body. If you kind of hold it flat on, you'll dampen the back a little bit. Some people use tone guards, which is just like a little cage that goes on the back. I've used it in the past, but I don't have one anymore. Chip says, okay, I gotta keep all this in my head. Whiskey before breakfast, ook pick, falling behind. This is great. I love the questions. Chip says, seems like you do more ornamentation in the play along. I like that. Learn mostly from listening to the play alongs as opposed to the video. Great. Yeah, that's what I hope people do. You know, if you're going through my videos and you're kind of groaning and saying, "Oh, this is taking too long," like I wish you'd speed up. A couple things you can do. You can put me on double speed. There's a little gear in the corner where you can up the speed to 1.5, 2. Learn it that way. I'm going too slow for you. Or just listen to the play along track. What I tend to do is play it through as I wrote out the tab, and then slowly get more and more ornaments into the tune. So I really recommend people listen to the play along tracks. They're free to stream on my website. And by adding in a little bit at a time of ornaments, and I'll play it through totally as written in the tabs, kind of bare bones versions. And then I'll just add in a little bit here and there, and then slowly build up. And I don't tend to go super over the top, so just try to add a little bit every time so you can sort of pick out, like, oh, he did something there that he didn't do last time, and then you can back up to that spot and say, okay, what's going on in there? All right, I got to do some tune requests here before I go any farther. What do we have? We have ook pick and whiskey before breakfast. I'll do a little ook pick. I love that tune. Ook Pick Waltz. Another tune that's not traditional, written by somebody in Canada that I can't remember off the top of my head. Oh, thank you, Chad, for the super chat donation. Always appreciated. Thank you very much. Oh, and maybe... Cool. I appreciate the donation. Yeah, great. I love that tune, Ook Pick Waltz. There's a really beautiful version on the Chris Thiele and Michael Daves album, if you haven't heard it. They do it in A. That's not A. Maybe they do it in E. I can't remember. They do it in some key that's not G, but it's beautiful. Great tune. Look up that version if you haven't already. I'll do a little bit of whiskey before breakfast. Whiskey Before Breakfast on my website. Ook is not on my website, but maybe I'll put it up there at some point. It's a little bit of copyright thing to think about there, but not out of the question, I guess. Richard says Lore's got a great volume. Yeah, I've played a couple Lores. Those are nice instruments. Richard Hoff says use an electric mandolin to get louder. Paul says I skip notes on notey songs. Any tip? Well, it's hard to troubleshoot that without, like sitting down with you and seeing what you're doing. But one thing I would say is slow down. Play slow, even slower than is comfortable. See if you can. A challenge that I always set for myself is how slow can I play a tune and still be in time and make it sound good and all that. With Whiskey Before Breakfast, see if you can play it at that speed. See if you can play along with the metronome at slow speeds is one of the hardest things for me. And making those play-along tracks with the slow versions has really helped me out a lot. Christoph says, are A-style mandolins more useful than F-styles? Loving the Stag M30. Lots of bass and sustain. I don't think anyone's more useful than the other. It's sort of what you prefer, what your budget is. A lot of A-style mandolins are about half the cost of F-style of the same builder and sort of model. But F-styles are great. I love them. I've never owned one personally, but great instruments for sure. But I don't think that one is more useful than the other. It's just kind of personal preference. Let's see, catch up with the chat here. All right, hi from the Dead Sea in Jordan. Very cool. Thanks for joining us. Oh, okay. So Richard said the I can't remember the name of what it is you're restoring, but it's a triple course mandolin. Tricotida. Cool. I had a triple course bowlback mandolin that was just a mandolin at one point, and it was crazy. I just had it for a little bit. My parents found it at like a yard sale or something, and were like, "Yeah, you want this?" And it was too crazy for me at the time. But very cool instruments. Cool. More high praise for Paul Hathaway's instrument. Recovering Bassist says I've got a ProPlec 1.5. Is that considered good? Yeah, I used ProPlec 1.5 big triangles for a long time. Well, I ultimately gravitated away from them. I find they were a little soft for me, which you may like, especially if you're a bassist. I think I think even some bass players that use picks will use ProPlex because they're nice, soft. They don't have a whole lot of high end to them. But I think to cut through a little bit more in sessions and ensembles, I kind of gravitated towards a harder pick. There we go. Kind of give me a different sound. So on my F-style mandolin, I use F-hole mandolin, A-style, my Ellis. I use Dunlop, what do they call it? Prime Tone 1.5. It's very much like the ProPlec, just a little harder and kind of has a sharper sound that I like. And again, anytime I talk about gear, not sponsored or anything, just telling you what I use, not getting paid or free stuff or anything like that. Although someone recently sent me in the mail, they tried the Prime Tones and didn't like them, so they sent them to me, which was very nice. That's the only free stuff I've ever gotten. But yeah, so I think picks are a great way to, none of them are super expensive as long as you stay away from like blue chips. But it's, for less than the cost of a pack of strings, just go to a music store and just like buy a handful of picks for $5 and see what you like best. That's what I did at one point. It was just like try one of everything. Brenda says Black Mountain Rag to the to-do list. Yeah, that's a good. I think it's already on my list. That'll be an interesting one because it's like kind of a guitar piece in my mind anyway. Maybe some mandolin players gotta. I think of Doc Watson doing Black Mountain Rag. And I think I've heard fiddle players too, but that one will take a little bit of work, but definitely not impossible. Gail says, any chance you could add ornaments, double stops to the sheet music for the rank beginner? Probably not, just because there's those sheets get filled up pretty quick as they are. Also, it's a lot of work for me to sort of think through what double stops to add, and it would about double the amount of time it takes me to make lessons, and I don't have that much time, unfortunately. But I can't remember. I don't know if you just got here, but I haven't seen your name yet, so apologies if this is old information to you. I have some planned lessons to do some sort of more filled out, ornamented videos with tablature and play along tracks that that will do what you're asking, and give you ideas of how to use that for different tunes. Also, checking if you look at the double stop series in the technique and fundamental section of my website, there's sort of talk about how to add those ornaments to any tune. Awesome. People in England and Canada joining us. Glad to see you. Denise says, talk a little bit about On Common Ground. It's so beautiful. Thank you very much. On Common Ground, for those who don't know, is a waltz that I wrote. I think there's a lesson on my website. I don't have much to say about it, really. It just popped whenever I write tunes, which isn't super regularly, but I've written like maybe 30 tunes. I actually have, if you're interested in my original compositions, if you go, my band Velocipede, which is myself and a fiddle player, Julia Plum, we have a PDF and a book, a print book of our original compositions. It's kind of half Julia's, half mine. And if you want to find more tunes that we've done, that's always an option. But yeah, I don't know. Tunes just always kind of. I've never been much of one to like kind of work over time on tunes, but it just kind of popped out of my head. And Common Ground Fair is a big kind of arts and agriculture, farming fair gathering up in Maine that I go to every year. It's a giant festival. There's like 60,000 people over the course of a weekend if the weather's good. Awesome time, and was thinking about that when I wrote the tune, so there goes the name. But I'm glad you enjoy the tune. Appreciate that. Chip says there's a balance between tone and volume, in my opinion. I agree. A very loud mandolin may give up a bit of tone, vice versa. I agree. Yeah, and it's all sort of whatever you like the sound. It's a lot of personal preference, but I tend to agree with you, Chip. Frankie Rogers is the... Yes. you're nailing the tunes and the composers, Chip. Thank you. Keeping my addled brain on the straight and narrow. Oops. Where am I? Cool. My husband had a Venetian body mandolin for me at an estate sale about a month ago. Cool. Awesome. I'm glad you're picking, Brenda. That's great. Have I ever thought about getting an Android app made like the ukulele app did? Please. Yes, I have thought about that. It's in the works. There's no time frame. But I can't say too much about it. But it's in the works. It will be surprisingly similar to the ukulele app. More about that when it actually happens. and not because I'm ripping off the ukulele app developers. Cool, we got some networking going on. That's great to see. Dulcimer players like Black Mountain Rag. Cool, I don't think I've ever heard a Dulcimer player do Black Mountain Rag. Chip, thank you very much for the super chat donation. I appreciate it. Wow, I think I successfully got through the whole chat. I'm at the bottom. I probably missed stuff. If I did, ask again and maybe I can get to it. I've totally forgotten all the requests and stuff. So if I haven't done your request or answered your question, now's your chance. The chat has bottomed out. And I'm sitting here with no questions. Yeah, I better play something. That's the truth. What'll I play? We'll find out. Oh, here's a good tune. Called? That's the question. Possum Up a Gum Stump is the name of that tune. It's not on my website, but it should be. It's a great tune. Lively old-time number. Do I know the Monahan jig? I do. That's another one that I know in sessions, but I can never start. Not much help there, unfortunately. Shove That Pig Foot, another tune. It's kind of similar. Great tune. Let's see. Christoph says, I have a video of me playing on stage for the first time. How can I get it to me? Yeah, I'd love to see it. Send me an email. Or if you put it on YouTube, or you can upload it to like Google Drive, or if you have it posted somewhere, just send me the link. You can find my email address on my website. Love to see it. All right. Perrin's finally made a broadcast. Thanks for joining us. Glad you're enjoying playing. Keep up the good work. Cool. Monahan Jig's one of your favorites. Shane Farrell has a good mandolin and tenor version on his YouTube. Cool. That name sounds familiar, but it doesn't. I'll have to check that out. Possum Up a Gum Stump. Yes, Chip, that's the one. Freebird. I don't know how to play Freebird. Do you play Sal's Got Mud Between Her Toes? Great tune. I've played it in the past, but only once or twice, and I have no idea how it goes off the top of my head. Somebody had a question. Gail says, I have really small hands. Any advice? First off, you've picked the right instrument. Mandolin is nice because everything's really close together. I think one thing is using proper technique. You can really kind of maximize however much stretch you can get out of the instrument. And And a lot of that comes from being relaxed through your shoulders, down into your arms. And then with the instrument kind of pushed away from your body, and I think I did this in a previous one, but when I play, if I'm facing 90 degrees from the camera, I'm not playing like this, because that pulls my shoulder back and my elbow back. I've kind of got the instrument pushed away from me a little bit. And everything in there, what that does is it really allows my arm to relax and then get the maximum amount of stretch out of my fingers is helpful. Also just learn, a lot of people are put off by this big G chop chord. That sort of shape. You don't really need to play that shape. I almost never play that shape. Even in straight ahead bluegrass situations, a lot of times I'm playing more condensed 2 or 3 string chords. So, instead of that big G chop chord, I'll play 4 on the G string and 5 on the D string. Or 5 and 2 on the middle sets of strings. Or 2 and 5 on the A and E. Find 2 and 3 note combinations that your fingers can stretch to. Continue to work towards stretching your fingers out and learning how to make longer spans, because that does take practice and it'll improve over time. But also find some more manageable chord shapes is going to be a big help. Morrison's jig, that's another one that I can never quite remember how it goes. Cool. Dodman311 says been playing a bunch from my site. Glad to hear it. Bluegrass Stomp. Yeah, that might be a Bill Monroe composition. So I'd have to look into the copyright on that one, but that's one I would like to do. Cool. Thank you, Christoph. Yeah, send it to me in my email. You can find my email on my website. I'd love to see it. Yeah. There's lots of folks out there that have all shape and size hands. Sierra's got pretty small hands. Mike Marshall has enormous hands. A lot of people kind of have the opposite problem. They say, "Oh, my hand's so big." Mike Marshall's got huge hands that seems like, wow, how could you ever play the mandolin? But he's super agile, super fast. Just takes it takes time to, get comfortable with the instrument, and figure out what works for you and how you can get everything to ring out like you want it to. Cool. Got to check out Shane's YouTube channel. Oh, cool. Brother of Colin Farrell. Great. I will look that up. And everybody else, if you're into Irish tunes, check out Shane Farrell Music on YouTube. I'm going to do that right after we're done. And I think it's after 1 o'clock, so I should get on with the rest of my day. But thank you all so much for joining for another MandoLessons Live. As far as I know, I'm doing one next week. Let me just make sure. But it should be the same time. Saturdays at noon. Eastern Standard Time. Yep. I'm around next week, so see you again, hopefully. Keep up the good work. Keep picking. And have a good weekend, everybody. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.